Welcome to All Pro Football Data. My name is Jim Coburn, and today's episode we're talking about the Cincinnati Bengals quarterly report. What is wrong with the Cincinnati Bengals? What's wrong with them? They were the pick of many people to be one of the contending teams in the AFC North, and they started the season out 1-4, one winning game out of five to start the season. And I don't want to get into the whole statistics about how likely it is this team's going to get into the playoffs or not, but it's not looking good. It really isn't. But let's look at them from a data perspective. So, I'm a data guy. I'm not going to spend all day talking about, well, Joe Burrow should have done this, or the defense should have done that, or Jamar Chase is this or that. Like, I'm not that type of person. That's not how I evaluate the NFL. Anybody who's watched this channel knows I look at the numbers. So we're going to look at the Cincinnati Bengals from a statistical standpoint to see how well they performed in the first 5 weeks of this season, and we're going to compare it to every single first 5 game performance in the NFL from 1991 until 2024 to give you an idea of how well this team is doing. So in many ways, the scores I'm showing you are percentile scores. So all it means is if a guy scores, say, 90 percentile, or if a team scores 90 percentile in passing yards, that means that compared to every single team through the first 5 NFL games since 1991, they typically scored or put up more passing yardage compared to 90% of the other teams in that time span. And it's also era adjusted. So we're comparing apples to oranges. So we're comparing how one team performed in, say, the 90s to how another team performed in the 2000s to how another team performed in the 2010s. And of course, now we're in the 2020s. So it's a good barometer. It's like an index, if you will, in terms of how these teams are performing. But it will get to the root cause, okay? We're going to get to the root cause. We're really going to get in there to figure out what's wrong with the Bengals this year, to really pinpoint what that is so we can make some corrections, because we still have the rest of the season to go. There's still more games to be played, and I think there is opportunity for the Bengals to maybe not end up in the playoffs, but they could at least get to a winning season if they make these corrections so far. But you have to identify what those problems are first and then fix them, and then you're going to be on the right track. So, starting off with the defense. So this is taking a look at a quick look at how the defense of 2023 compares to the Cincinnati Bengals defense in 2024 through the first 5 weeks of the season. And the big thing that really sticks out here, defensively speaking, is the defense for 2024 is atrocious. But the biggest thing that really sticks out in terms of this team is their sacks per play, their interceptions per play, and even time of possession. Even time of possession were much better in 2023 compared to this year in 2024. So sacks are down, interceptions are down, and as a result, quarterback ratings are up, completion percentages are up, net yards per attempt is up, yards is up, attempts are up, completion percentages are up, points per play given up is up. All of these things uh, are worse because they're really not pressuring the quarterback. That's a big thing. And, there's a lot of things you could point to. You could point to the fact, well, they didn't really invest a lot in the offseason into the defensive line. They've had lots of injuries. They're a little longer in the tooth, in terms of NFL age. You have to consider the age of NFL players in dog years sometimes. So even though a guy may have been in the NFL for 8, 9 years, the wear and tear on that guy is like a guy who's in his 60s and his 70s. And that's a lot of some of the concerns I see is really on the defensive side of the football. That's the biggest thing that regressed. So here's a better sort of snapshot of everything. In terms of percentile points, the interceptions per play compared to 2023 to 2024 decreased by 70 percentile points. That's a massive drop in terms of interceptions per play. Sacks per play went down to the 65 percentile. Punts per play, basically the more often that you're getting the offense to punt, also is down 52 percentile points. Third down conversion rate is also down in terms of their ability to get teams off on third down. And then, of course, everybody's going to point to the passing yardage and the completion percentage and the quarterback rating. But a lot of this, again, comes down to the sacks, comes down to the pressures, because the biggest thing that really made the Bengals such a phenomenal team in terms of getting to the Super Bowl, a couple years ago, is not necessarily just because of Joe Burrow, being a great quarterback, but and also having Jamar Chase and all the weapons, but more so with the defense. The defense was solid, and the offense was great with Joe Burrow, and as a result, you had a complete football team, top to bottom. Defense was great, offense was great. The problem, though, was the defense had a lot of mercenaries. There was a lot of free agents in that defense. A lot of those free agents have moved on, and they haven't really replaced those guys. Haven't really got any replacements. And as a result, you see this regression in the defense. So this is the biggest reason why the Bengals have performed so poorly in terms of winning, or I would say losing football games this year, is because of the defense. The defense is not getting it done. And I think the two biggest culprits has to do with the sacks per play, interceptions per play. They're not getting pressures on the quarterback. They're not getting that disruption on them. And on top of that, as a result, I mean, you can be hard on cornerbacks all day long, but if you're not really getting much pressure and you're not really getting many sacks, it's going to be a long day, a long day for the secondary. You can only hold up so much. And especially if you're on the football field so much too, because again, time of possession is up by 33 percentile points. I should say in terms of in the bad column, in terms of the defense being in the football, being on the field more often, also hurts them. So these are things to kind of look at in terms of the defense, and is a big reason why the Bengals are here where they're at now. Going to the offensive side of the football, it's a completely different scenario. People can blame many different people for what the Bengals are going through right now, but you can't really blame Joe Burrow or the offense for the Bengals, because the offense has been putting in phenomenal statistics. Their touchdowns are up from last year, yards per attempt, net yards per attempt, completion percentage, quarterback rating. Joe Burrow, I think, don't misquote me, but Joe Burrow is kind of like one of the top. If he's not, he's most likely the top quarterback in terms of quarterback rating, or at the very least, he's in the top five. I'll give him that. He's easily in the top five in terms of quarterback rating, and probably the top one. I don't want to double check things, but he's performing extremely well. The offense is in terms of getting points on the football field. And all those other sort of things. Third down conversion rate in the 90 plus percentile. So the offense has done this big 180. And it's not surprising considering they invested a lot in the offense. They invested in the offensive line, wide receiver position, tight end position, especially, with that sort of sleeper pick in terms of, the tight end that they selected in day two, or I should say day three, mid round area. But this is, you can't really blame the offense, and just look at it right here. All these things have increased, and attempts are down. So again, the Bengals are more efficient as a offense, as a passing offense. Even the rushing offense is up in terms of rushing attempts, rushing yards, yards per attempt, rushing touchdowns. All those things are up this year. Sacks per play is slightly down. Time of possession is slightly down, which is another thing we'll kind of get to. But the offense is doing what it needs to do. The defense is just not getting it done. And these are the biggest sort of thing. This is the crux of it. It kind of reminds me of the New Orleans Saints with Drew Brees in sort of the mid 2000s. When Drew Brees had a great defense, then it was very likely that the Saints were going to be at the Super Bowl, or at the very least at the playoffs. But when Drew Brees didn't have a good defense, they were going to go 8-8. They were going to be 9-7, 8-8, 7-9, stuff like that. The offense is performing, but the defense is not able to stop anybody. So you just end up losing football games. Or at the very least, the volatility of winning football games is all over the place, because there definitely were many games this year that they could have won, but because of the defense being what it is, the volatility swings more towards them losing because of the issues that they have on the defensive side of the football. Now, getting to the overall outlook of things, in terms of overall data. So this is sort of the taking all that into consideration, all those statistics into consideration. The Bengals are actually better from 2023 to 2024 in terms of points per play forced versus points per play allowed. So compared to the first 5 weeks of last year, the Bengals are actually better in this particular category, and that's a very important category to kind of point out because that's one of the most significant statistics in terms of winning football games in the future is that number. So, when you look at the Bengals, even though this was a very rough first 5 weeks, if they can shore up that defense, just get it a little bit better. It doesn't have to be amazing, but just a little bit better, then this could be a much better season going forward. If they could just improve the defense in a lot of key areas. So, I think the basics of this is, the passing offense, of course, way up. Rushing offense, way up. AO, which is advanced Bengals offense, is way up. That deals with sacks, third down conversion rate, those different kinds of things. And then, of course, when you go to the Bengals defense, the passing defense is down, way down in terms of their passing defense. Rushing defense is about the same. It wasn't that great last year. It's not that great this year. And then in terms of advanced defensive statistics, which is, sacks, punts per play, third down conversion rate, that also is very low for them. And of course, this kind of shows you I don't want to harp on this too much, but as you can clearly see, the defense is not doing well at all. But the offense is definitely doing a lot of the heavy lifting in terms of winning football games, and it's a big reason why they're in the positive area in terms of the TSC, which TSC kind of takes into account, points per play on offense and points per play on defense. So steps to improve. So we got to the conclusion. Okay, how can the Bengals improve? I think you have to get better at getting pressure and sacks. It just is what it is. There's a lot of nagging injuries on the defensive line, but they need help to give the defensive backs a chance to make plays versus getting carved up by opposing offenses. I don't think there's anybody that you can really call off the street to come in and put on a Bengals jersey and generate pressure, but they really do need to rethink how they're going to get pressure. If they need to get some guys, from the practice squad in there, they just have to do something. Get a trade, trade for an interior defensive lineman. Uh, just something. They got to do something to get more pressures, more sacks, just slightly better, and they're going to end up in the winning column more often. If they just improve the defense a little bit more, they're going to get into the winning column. So, get off on third down more often, which should improve a better pressure slash sacks. Is another sort of thing they could do. Offense needs to make more controlled and long time of possession drives to take heat off the defense. So you never want to just say, hey, let's throw water on the offense because the offense is hot. But this might be something they really should consider is to do more controlled, long time of possession drives to slow down the game and have keep the defense off the football field. Keep the offense on the football field, keep the offense on the football field, and get the defense off the football field. That's another thing that's also going to improve things. I believe, if you do those things. So that's another thing. And I understand, like your best players are your offensive weapons. Is Jamar Chase, with Joe Burrow throwing the football. Those are those are the keys, if you will, to the kingdom, if you will. And again, I'm not trying to get into individual players, but just the basics, the outside looking in the forest for the trees type perspective, that is something that needs to happen. So they have some backs to run the football. I think everybody's familiar with them. I think they need to get those backs to run the football a little bit more, increase the time the offense is on the field, and help the defense, with time to adjust. These are the things that they really need to improve upon. Because the fact of the matter is, when you look at the rest of the schedule for the Bengals, you got the Raiders coming up, you got the Browns coming up, you got a lot of bad football teams, to be honest, that are coming up, and the Giants. I wouldn't say the Giants are a bad football team; they're slightly better than they were last year, especially with Malik Neighbors, but they have opportunity to have a better next quarter than they had in this particular quarter. If they can just shore up the defense and really get things going and get out of the losing column. So I hope that next time at the half season point, we'll be able to talk about the Bengals being eight, not 8-8, but say 5-4. Here we go, 5-4. So versus 1-4. Hopefully that's the case, but it's doable. It really is doable. But they have to do these fundamental things. They have to be able to sack the quarterback more often, get pressures more often, do those sort of things on defense more often. And if they do those things, they'll improve a lot. So, thank you so much for watching. Of course, my name is Jim Coburn. If you like this channel and you like the things that I do, go and check out my Patreon page at patreon.com/jcoburn. If you are into seeing who's going to win football games, stuff like that, in terms of statistics in the college football realm and in the NFL realm, I've done statistical models looking at, potential wins, potential losses, and those other sort of things on there as well. So be sure to join my Patreon if you want to get that information as well. And I just thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. Peace.